What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Golden Edge Mailbag. I'm Review Journal Golden Knights reporter Ben Gotz. He is Review Journal Golden Knights reporter Adam Hill. I'm back in the flesh today, Adam, after Skyping in from a road trip. It's good to be back with you.
I prefer you on that screen. I have a screen right here where I could see you in your hotel room. It was very weird, but it worked at the same time. But I guess it's good to have you back.
Yeah, my beautiful Washington, D.C. hotel room. The Knights are back, too, after a 9-day, 5-game road trip. That's a season long for them. And they start a 5-game homestand against the Buffalo Sabres. But before they get back at it, we're going to answer some questions entering the homestand. And our first one is actually about a guy that you talked to yesterday, about William Karlsson, and it's from Jeff. Is William Karlsson a flash in the pan, or is he for real? So this is a guy who scored 43 goals last year, had an incredible breakout season for the Golden Knights. He was a two-way center too. He got it done defensively, but through 6 games, he has yet to score a goal, Adam. So what do you think he needs to do to get back on track?
Well, first of all, I mean, the question is a bit of a loaded question as it is. Is he a flash in the pan? Is he for real? Yeah, I think he's for real as a hockey player. The 43 goals were a flash in the pan. I don't think we're going to see that again. But, I mean, it was just a spectacular season where everything came together. He's still playing really well defensively. It's reflected in the plus-minus, and Jonathan Marchessault talked about that yesterday. He's like, yeah, he's got 0 in the goal column, but look at everything he's doing defensively. He's got 4 assists. He's setting up chances. Like, he's doing a lot of things well, and that's what he is as a hockey player. That 43 goals might not be what he is as a hockey player, but, I think you're seeing a lot of really good things out of Karlsson. And, if you check out our story, as you referenced, he talked about something called the ketchup effect, which I wasn't familiar with.
Me neither.
I've heard it used a lot of different ways now. It was actually a movie in Sweden called the ketchup effect.
Really?
Yeah, there's also other things. You might not want to Google it on a work computer. I saw some very weird things that are called the ketchup effect. But he says it's, you keep pounding on the bottle and nothing's coming out. But eventually, if, a little trickle starts, then all the ketchup flows out of the bottle. So, he's hoping that happens, score a goal, and then start, more start following. But you have to remember also, he didn't score in the first 6 games last year and went on. He scored in the 7th and 8th game. So we'll see if he continues that trend.
Yeah, but as you said, I think he's played pretty well this year. He's had a lot of chances, had a lot of good shots. He's got 4 assists, has played well defensively. But it will be something that's kind of interesting to monitor, that goal total, because he is set to go back to arbitration this year. He signed a 1-year deal with the Knights this offseason, and he's probably looking for more money. So in terms of, he's got to prove it to the team and to the league again that this is the kind of player he can be, kind of that dominant two-way player, and a guy that's going to be worth a longer-term contract.
Yeah, and so I would say the answer is no, not a flash in the pan. But if you're just talking about goal total, perhaps.
We'll see. We'll move on to our next question, though. Poor Marc-Andre Fleury could use some really good defensive players. That's from @VegasPlayerGuy. It's been a very weird start to the year for Fleury, I feel like, Adam. He has played absolutely spectacularly in their 2 wins. That Minnesota game, he was great in keeping them at least within a goal so they could kind of make the late comeback and eventually win it in a shootout. And against the Flyers this past Sunday, just incredible.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. Some phenomenal saves that are absolutely going to go on his career highlight reel. But other than that, the people in front of him have given up a lot of chances, and he's kind of struggled.
And even when he gave up, big chances against, in those games, when they allowed easy chances for the other team, grade A chances, he still came up big. So he kind of stole them 4 points to salvage what could have been an even worse road trip. But you're right, in a couple of games, some goals got by. He's trying to, he's trying to figure some things out. But you see those spectacular games that, are really what is kind of keeping the Golden Knights afloat right now. The question was about he could use some good defensive players. Well, maybe they can acquire a guy like Nate Schmidt in a couple of weeks. Maybe that could help out in front of the net a little bit, clean things up. And, it's not just about getting him, because when he gets back and he starts to get, back into the team flow a little bit, then you're going to have other guys that can settle into their roles a little bit more. So, him coming back really helps everyone. And, seeing some struggles from some of the guys and, maybe some unfamiliar pairings, and they're trying to mix and match a little bit to see what works. You'll see Hunt in the lineup tonight. We'll see what he's able to bring to the defense with England missing some time. So, yeah, I think, once Nate Schmidt is back, that helps a lot of the defense. It doesn't fix everything, doesn't cure everything, but it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, and it'll hopefully help Fleury not to do everything on his own like he kind of had to do for a lot of that Flyers game, and that was on Saturday, by the way, not Sunday, my bad.
It seemed like a Sunday, though, didn't it? It was
really
an
did.
afternoon game. It kind of felt like a Sunday. I think he even wrote Sunday and had to go back and, and fix that.
But yeah, there's just some stuff that have been out of his control, though, too, because you mentioned that defense. I mean, the Capitals game, there's so many backdoor tap-ins that are just, there's nothing that Fleury can really do. He can't, basically teleport across the net to make those saves.
He can't?
It would be awesome if he could.
Maybe that's what he needs to do.
Well, maybe those new gold goalie pads he was sporting yesterday will help him with that.
We will see, but I did, I pointed out something to you on text yesterday. I know it's very creepy sending late night texts about Marc-Andre Fleury, but he tried yellow pads early in his career in Pittsburgh and was told by an optometrist that it's not the right color for pads because they can enable shooters to see him more easily out of their periphery. And so, he's tried it before. It was about a decade ago. Maybe he's going back to the gold. Maybe the gold doesn't stand out as much as the yellow.
We'll see. He did not wear the gold pads in practice today. He did yesterday. So it doesn't appear that he's going to sport them for the game tonight. He said he's only going to use them for special occasions. But it's, another intriguing thing to monitor.
They were very bright.
Very bright.
Yeah.
But something to monitor the rest of the year. We'll go on to our next question. This is from someone who was talking about the Caps game. Caps power play was horrible too. What is going on with these teams on the power play? That's from @Scott_Skeels. I don't know enough about the Capitals to really pretend I'm an expert on them, but with the Knights, what's going on is not great. They are 0 for 16 to start the year on the power play. They are one of 3 teams in the NHL without a power play goal. So Adam, what are you seeing? How can they kind of address that and fix it?
Well, first of all, check out our podcast. I mean, we talk extensively about the power play issues.
Now on iTunes.
Cheap plug. Good.
Cheap plug.
But listen, it's not going well. The 0 for 16 it stands out. It jumps out at you, but it's actually, I think, worse than that. There's been no cohesion. There's been really no sense that they're like about to break through to me, and that's what's really concerning. That it's not just the number, because the number does jump out. It's the fact that you're just waiting for something to go well and something to happen. It's just not there. Max Pacioretty was talking about it today. He said, hey, listen, I don't want to make excuses. So I don't really want to go too into this. He's like, but we've had, all of a sudden we start to feel a little bit of a connection and good chemistry with somebody, and then they get hurt. And then they're out and somebody else takes their spot, and then we rotate around, and then, this person's hurt. And now we can't use him. And so it's a lot of mixing and matching. It's a lot of trying to figure out where they should be and who should be where with guys missing and guys out. But at the same time, like, you need to take advantage of those opportunities. You need to be able to score power play goals. They need to figure out, what they're doing and what they want to accomplish on the power play. Alex Tuch, close to coming back. That's going to be a huge factor. He's a very key performer on the power play. But for right now, I think another part of it is that they are just really thinking about how they have not scored yet on a power play, and it's getting to them, and they're pressing. And I think once they score, that'll be off their mind a little bit, and they can just try to figure out better chemistry and move forward.
Yeah, but you mentioned Max Pacioretty. I mean, that's a guy that's already moved around units. He started on the second power play unit. He's now on the first with the first line. And we believe Brad Hunt tonight. It had been Colin Miller at the start of the year. Then they moved it to Shea Theodore, and now potentially Brad Hunt. So these are just things that are getting jumbled kind of every game or every other game, it feels like. So you mentioned, that cohesion is just not there because they just haven't played a lot together. And I think that starts to creep into your head too when there's all this tinkering going on that, hey, it's not working. They're kind of messing with things. We better break out of this, and they just haven't been able to yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. And again, we'll see when they are able to settle in. And now, even dealing with more injuries now with, Paul Stastny being out, they're trying to figure out, where everybody fits in, moving people around and, different lines and different combinations now. So the whole thing is definitely a work in progress that they hope to make big strides on now that they're returning home.
Yeah, well, let's go to our last comment that we have. Welcome to expansion reality from Don. This is a comment I saw on Facebook, and I've had a couple people like this in my mentions, kind of basically anticipating the Golden Knights were kind of set up for this fall after this magical inaugural season, and this is what was really supposed to happen to them. But I don't really see it that way, Adam. I still think this team is playing well for large stretches. I still think they have a lot of talent on this team. I don't think they're all of a sudden going to backslide after the big magical year that was last year. There's still too many good players on this team to just kind of fall apart, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody expected regression. We talked all off season about expecting regression. I know in our picks, we indicated, our preseason prognostications, we kind of all, predicted a bit of a regression, and I think most people who were reasonable about it thought the same way. I don't think this is unexpected, and I don't really think it's an expansion-related thing. I think, or a talent thing even. I think it's more, first of all, a lot of injuries, but second of all, there is a natural hangover effect that happens after a deep run into the playoffs, where every game is so important and so over the top vital. Every single mistake that you made is magnified, and there's all this emotion. You come up short in your ultimate goal, and all of a sudden you're back into the rhythm of regular season games, back into the routine. You see it in all sports, across sports, very, very often. You see teams struggle the next regular season after a deep run in the playoffs, especially if you come up short in the finals. I think you're seeing a little bit of that more than anything else. It's just, that trying to get back that sense of urgency to move forward with the grind of the regular season, and I think they'll get there. I don't think it's going to be, President's Trophy type winning team. I don't think they're going to be a number one seed, in the playoffs. But I just, I think it's going to be a team that fights and gets into the playoffs, and then see what they can do once you make that run. But I do think there's a bit of a hangover effect from last year.
Yeah, but you mentioned, we expected regression, but I think we both still expected them to make the playoffs this year. Not necessarily win the division. I had them finishing second. I believe you had them third in the division. But still, obviously, a very good second season for them. And I think, as we talked about on our podcast, they're still only 2-4. They're 2 games below 500, so all is not lost. And they have a 5-game homestand coming up here, their longest of the season. So they can build some points there and potentially get right back into the mix, and then you're good to go for months on end for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a big homestand, though. And it's not huge. It's not season-defining, anything like that. It's a really big homestand to try to get your mentality right, get points for sure. You need points out of these games. There's 3 very, very, very winnable games in this stretch. So you got to get the points out of it, but really you just want to get feeling better about yourselves going forward. All
right, we have a Facebook question. So shout out to Kevin for your Facebook question. Do you think they need more speed on defense? Big loss with Nate out, but they could use a better skater on the back end, in my honest opinion. I kind of agree with that, though I do think a lot of it on defense, their issues have just been not necessarily not playing fast, but not playing smart. What I always come back to is that Pittsburgh game when they allowed 2 breakaways to Phil Kessel. Not 1, but 2. And it was the same defensive pairing both times, Colin Miller and Braden McNabb, who allowed Phil Kessel to get behind them both times. That's not a speed issue. That's just a failure to recognize that there's a guy kind of leaking out your back end. And other than that, when we talk about the Washington game with those tap-ins, I also don't think it was just they were getting beat down the ice. It's part of it. But I think part of it was they were so focused on scoring because they had gotten so many shots in their first couple of games and not been able to finish, that they were cheating a little bit in the offensive zone, and they were trying a little bit too hard to keep the puck in or to create another scoring chance, and then they were getting beat down at the other end. So I don't know if speed is necessarily the problem. I do think it could be an issue because they don't have, a lights-out skater like Nate Schmidt, but I think it's just been general awareness and kind of mental mistakes that has burned them so far.
Yeah, and I think you're, part of what you're indicating there about, really pushing on offense and really pushing forward and trying to take chances in your offensive zone has led to a lot of the collapses on the back end as well. And they're getting caught with breaks back the other way because they're looking to try to take advantage of whatever they can find, trying to pinch up in the offensive end and helping out a little bit too much there. So I think a lot of what ails them, as we talked about, is just finally getting on the scoreboard, getting some consistency on offense that will help certainly relax them a little bit, and it'll help especially some of the defensive players take the pressure off them to say, hey, we don't have to be a part of this. We can, certainly have to be a part of the team, but it's not a pressure situation for them to try to score goals. And the goals flow a little easier, and then the defense can focus more on playing defense and not try to pinch up. So I think that will solve a lot of their issues. But you're right. I mean, there is still personnel questions certainly on the defensive end, and especially now with England out for a couple of games. You move other guys up. Bischoff's back up. He'll he'll try to work his way to the rotation if they need him. Hunt is going to play, so we'll see what he can bring to the defensive side of things for the Golden Knights tonight.
Yeah, a lot of things to work out for the Golden Knights on this homestand that starts tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. If you have any questions during the homestand or any point during the regular season, remember you can send them to us on Twitter or to my email, which is bgoats@reviewjournal.com. We are here for all your questions, all your comments throughout this entire Knights season, and we will be there every game at reviewjournal.com. Until then, for Adam Hill, I'm Ben Gotz. Thanks for watching.